This goes for the people whose jobs are at risk that we were talking about earlier. We can't understand how we would react in that situation because we're translating. It would be like saying, oh, if I was a kid again, I would do all these things. Well, yes, if you were an adult being a kid for a temporary amount of time, taking with you your point of view, yes, you would do all the things that you talk about. But when you're a kid, what do most kids want to do? They want to be adults, right? So, yeah, it really is, when you're in that situation, you respond based on what you have in the context. And taking our context and translating it doesn't work. But that's what we do naturally. That's how we as humans operate. We bring with us our context. And it's one of the critical reasons why in order to deal effectively with people, it's important to understand where they're coming from. And you can't necessarily understand their full context, but you can be cognizant that the fact that the decisions that they're making and the way that they are behaving is usually dictated based on a context that has a history. And there could be all kinds of things going on for that person that cause them to react a certain way or deal with, say things they didn't mean to, or just do things that they later wish they hadn't. And if you're in that situation, you're facing that, you'll be much more effective if you can actually understand that that's probably going on for people. Because if the perspective were shifted and you understood what everybody else was going through, you would realize that all of your problems that you have, everybody else is carrying around similar problems, probably some worse than others and better at hiding them. I mean, everybody is carrying around all of this stuff that they're dealing with. And you mentioned Elon Musk earlier. There was an interesting tweet that he did probably 2 years ago where somebody tweeted at him and said, your life is amazing. It's just like, I wish I could have your life. And he tweeted back and said, actually, it's 99% stress and not much else. Right?
Well, it's easy to look at anybody and based on what's presented, make all these assumptions and believe that those assumptions are the full truth of it. Elon Musk, billionaire, fires rockets into space, owns a really cool car and makes really cool cars. I mean, that's enough.
Right.
Right?
He's also like digging tunnels and doing all sorts of weird
right, genius,
things.
Right? Talking with, leaders of government and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, as are all leaders. No leader is perfect, and the persona that we see or perceive of them is very rarely anywhere close to the actual truth of what it's like. I mean, Elon Musk is a good example. He is mission focused, right? Much more so than I or anyone that I know is, but he believes in a mission, and humans are secondary. The humans that he deals with are secondary to the grander mission for humankind.
They're pawns in a sense, and I don't mean that negatively, but
it's a pretty apt description.
Yeah, probably how he looks at it.
If you work for him, your happiness and enjoyment is secondary to the mission. The principal thing that he's concerned about is execution of the mission, no matter what comes of that. And in that singular focus makes him an unpleasant character to be around, which the same can be said for Steve Jobs. He was an unpleasant character to be around. He was not the kind of person that you wanted to hang out with. And yet he inspired people and created a lot of great things. So the public perception versus the actuality of somebody's experience in life is always different, and we take the things that we want out of that, which is fine. But our role as leaders, and all of us are leaders. I'm not suggesting that there is one group that are leaders and one group is not. Every single person in constant daily life is a leader, in the sense that other people look to them and observe what they do and follow what they do. In your daily interactions with all the different people that you're interacting with, you're actually acting as a leader. Your behavior and the way you deal with people and the things that you do is part of what forms a leadership that everyone has. Everyone is leading, no matter how insignificant somebody feels. They are actually, in their own area, a local leader.
Well, certainly a leader of their own life, that's for sure, with every person.
And more than they realize have impacts on people around them. More than they realize. And that's, now the thing about leadership, and Simon Sinek said this much better than I could ever put it, but the thing about leadership is not getting up and giving one speech. Leadership is a consistent application of the same things, right? You're constantly kind of talking with people, interacting with people, and just kind of moving forward something. That is leadership. You shape and change something through constant reinforcement of what you're doing with that. So if you got up and you went to school every day, or you went to play tennis every day at 10 a.m., there's probably a kid that's watching you go to that thing every 10 a.m. that you've never met, might never even meet, but that's seeing you and going, I want to be dedicated like that person. That's cool. I like, these are the things that subconsciously are constantly happening. But they don't see you go once and go, oh, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to tennis every day. They see your consistency. They see Roger Federer didn't just make one speech. He continued to perform not only in tennis, but then afterwards in interviews, when he dealt with people, when he's off camera, when he's off stage, he's constantly being this Roger Federer person that helps shape the people around him and the message and the leadership that he then.
Given that you were saying this, and before you said Roger Federer and you mentioned tennis, I started thinking about Roger Federer. And as a kid, I was 12, 13 when I first saw him, and I'm still a huge fan of his today. As a kid, he was the perfect role model, and there are things that he may have just said off the cuff, whatever, just the way that he walks, whatever, just everything about him that he's not even thinking of. Because you know what he's probably thinking of? Okay, how am I going to beat Nadal? Oh, how am I going to get this next trophy? What am I going to say in this interview? He's thinking about what he needs to do, but all the corollary things around that, like just the everything about him that he's not thinking of, that are just subconscious, unconscious to him, end up affecting me, as well as the conscious things. Right. And it's not just me. Right. I'm one person in a different country than him. He's got a global presence. So I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And everything we've talked about in the last 20 minutes regarding the poverty, what we carry within ourselves, subconscious cues we give, and so on, are very, very good worldly and sociological discussions, and they have huge ramification and impact on business. I'd put what we just said in the category loosely of soft skills for someone to know and understand.